This video is brought to you by 3, bringing you 4G at no extra cost and some exclusive deals over at btech.com.
Hey guys, welcome to BTech. It's Basil here with the Sony Xperia Z2 and the HTC One. This is a 2014 edition HTC One. This is a Sony Xperia Z2 announced at MWC 2014. These are the two hottest Android phones out now when it comes to design. Why? Well, you've got metal unibodies around both of them. The Sony Xperia Z2 has a glass front and back. You've got a front-facing camera. At the base, you've got on-screen buttons, stereo speakers up top and bottom. On the right-hand side, bringing it closer into frame, you can see a micro SD card slot, power button and a volume rocker, as well as a really nice, easy to press two-stage camera button. At the base is a microphone lanyard port, and flipping it around you've also got a dock connector, magnetic dock connector. Underneath the flap on the left is where you can find the micro USB port, as well as the micro SIM tray. Closing that up, and we can move to the top where we can see an exposed 3.5mm headphone jack and noise cancelling microphone. That's because this thing ships with noise cancelling headphones that can cancel up to 98% of background noise. You've also got a 20.7 megapixel rear facing camera and a flash, as well as an NFC 0.2. Classical styling, really good fit in the hand. It's a very, very handsome device all in all. And now the HTC One isn't going to be outdone so easily though. You've got a 5 megapixel front facing camera, stereo speakers up top and bottom, 5-inch full HD display. On the right hand side you've got a volume rocker and no other buttons, but you do have a micro SD card slot. Like the Z2, this is expandable up to 128 gigabytes on the HTC One. 3.5mm headphone jack and a micro USB port. You can see how the metal is curved, sculpted around the body of the device, and it's still unibody, still with that brushed metal finish on the back. On the left hand side is where you'll find the micro SIM tray. Sorry, it's a nano SIM tray, while up at the top is a power button which doubles up as an infrared blaster. Flipping it around, you've got those really interesting dual cameras and a dual flash. That's a dual tone flash, so you're gonna get a warm and a cool. As for what the cameras do, well, we can really quickly just hop into that, take a quick picture of our wrists, and pop that open, edit that, do a 3D dimension thing, and we can see we've got some cool 3D dimension tweaks you can apply to our wrist, and you can do this to faces especially. It works incredibly well. We actually did it with this one earlier and it worked slightly better, so we can jump through to that, show you the 3D dimension plus, and you can see we're actually navigating around our wrist. Looks like it's 3D, but it's actually just a JPEG image that HTC has been very clever with. What we can also do is we can blur out the background, or we can sketch the background and keep the foreground in check, etc. So some really fun stuff you can do. We're going to move on to Sony's imaging prowess later though, so don't worry, Sony's definitely got a few tricks up their sleeve too. We just needed to mention the cameras. Now time to move on to both of these displays though. The HTC One and Sony Xperia Z2 both pack LCD panels, really high quality ones at that, though they are markedly different in terms of the output. What do we mean? Well, if we open up the same image on both of the phones, we can jump out to the gallery here and jump out again. There you go. We can swipe to there, swipe to there. You've actually got more color accurate whites on the HTC One, but they're significantly less saturated when you're holding them side by side. While when you're holding the phone on its own, it looks incredibly punchy. When you're holding the Z2 alongside it, the Z2 almost looks like an AMOLED panel. Now there have been side by sides showing that the Z2 is punchier than even the Note 3, which is an AMOLED panel. So it's little wonder that the HTC One doesn't quite compete on the saturation front. The Z2 also has incredibly pure blacks, which is very good to see. The HTC One, with its better whites and its slightly sharper screen, may be better for things like reading websites and reading ebooks. However, the Sony Xperia Z2, let's just kill that phone. However, the Sony Xperia Z2 will definitely be perfect for imaging and movies. Jumping out of those, and it's probably time to take a look at all that Sony Xperia Z2 camera can do. And if we jump into the shooting modes, we can see you've got superior auto, manual, 4K video, time shift, background defocus, AR effects, etc. We're talking quickly because basically Sony just gives you a shed load of modes. Superior auto is awesome. It's going to make a load of decisions for you. Manual isn't actually that manual, but you can do things like change white balance, etc. We're going to jump into the background defocus app because you might argue that the fact it's on both of these phones means you might as well just get the Xperia Z2. Well, it's a very different technology because you've got just one camera. It has to take multiple pictures. So if we were to take a picture of our wrist, for example, tapping to focus, firstly, you can see how long that took by comparison. And it's done a good job, but it's a significantly more conscientious effort, and we can tweak the degree to which the background is blurred, and you can't play around with 3D elements, etc. Still extremely good. So if you do like the idea of the Z2, don't be put off. You can still do things like this, but they're just not as easily accessible. Jumping out of that picture, we have to disclaimer, by the way, this is all prototype software on both of these devices, so any glitches will probably come down to that. We can pop open the camera once more and we can show you all the benefits of 4K video on your phone. Now, many people will say there is no point to having 4K video on a phone. That's actually not true, we're going to say now. So if we, for example, start recording a video of this creative Bluetooth speaker, which we can stop recording a video of. When we actually play back the video, whether we're playing it back on here or on a TV, we can zoom in on the 4K video, this creative Bluetooth speaker, and that carries its clarity through even throughout the zoom range, so it retains a full HD resolution no matter how much we zoom, to a degree obviously. So 4K video finally has a purpose on a smartphone, and of course you are future-proofing your memories, as Sony likes to call it. So imaging front, both very good. 1080p video recording, 4 megapixel camera, both digitally image stabilized, no optical image stabilization on either, as opposed to a 20.7 megapixel camera. Don't let those pixels fool you though. The Sony Xperia Z2 generally will only take 8 megapixel images, and those 8 megapixel images are very good indeed. Though it will have more detail, the chances are the HTC One might be better in low light, though we'd need to do a side-by-side comparison in order to give you any firm verdict on the imaging. Other key specs: 3 gigabytes of RAM, 2 gigabytes of RAM. HTC One has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor clocked at 2.3 gigs or 2.5 gigs in certain Asian markets. Sony Xperia Z2 is just 2.3 gigs, again in a Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor. Both of these devices will therefore fly, although the Xperia Z2 may handle multitasking a little bit better. You can also expect LTE connectivity on both, not to mention, as we said, NFC points around the back, Bluetooth 4.0, Wi-Fi direct, etc. So all in all, two of the best devices on the market. It really is the design of these two that separate them from the crowd, as well as those stereo speakers. Now, just before we go, we did have a little playback of a few songs, and we'll record another video giving you a more in-depth comparison. But the two stereo speakers are very, very comparable, very loud indeed. The HTC One's stereo speakers are a little bit better, it has to be said. So if we, for example, jump into some hip hop, and then you can see the volume is incredibly comparable. This is 25% louder than its predecessor, but where the HTC One wins out is in terms of clarity. We can really see that here, for example. It doesn't sound as tinny as the HTC One before it, but it picks up more clarity than the Sony Xperia Z2, just a bit. So both of these phones, like we said, the two best speaker phones on the scene right now. But the HTC One 2014 or M8, whatever you want to call it, just edges slightly ahead there. So it's a shame the Xperia Z2 held that crown for such a short time. Either way, both of these phones, absolute multimedia powerhouses. Games will be stunning on them, and watching movies on them, an absolute treat. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you've got any questions about either of these phones, please ping them in the comments section below. I've been Basil with BTech. Make sure you head over to btech.com for the latest in smartphones, tablets, smart gadgets, and some awesome deals. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button. If you enjoyed the channel in general, make sure you subscribe.
At the top of the screen is where you can find 3 hand-picked videos for your viewing pleasure. On the left is where you can subscribe, and on the right hand side you can find some exclusive deals if you head over to btech.com.